Okay, we are live. What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. This is some of the best day that 2020 has offered for me because my direct import shipment of this famous Domaine Prieure Roch has finally came in. It was supposed to be here in April, but just like everything in 2020, it just has been difficult. But hey, it came in. I am super excited. There is such a huge hype with Domaine Prieure Roch right now in both the Asian and American market that is worth taking a little bit of time to do a deep dive into. So today we're going to talk as much as I can. I'm going to geek out a little bit because I'm in my happy place right now, surrounded by this amazing Burgundy. I just want to swim in this and just sleep here tonight. I think I'll be happy. Anyways, so Domaine Prieure Roch is started back about 1988, although the owner was interested in getting vines way prior to that. He actually purchased a very small parcel that the DRC was selling. Long story longer, it was a family-owned vineyard in Romilly-Saint-Vivant that was contracted to make wine for DRC, but the contract was up, I believe, sometime in the 70s or something like that, 79, 78. They were trying to sell it at the time. Henri Frederick Roch, the owner, didn't have enough money to buy it, but then it came back again back in 88. So he's just like, this winery is calling me. This is it. I'm going to make it happen. In fact, that very original vineyard that he had purchased in Von Romani is this one right here. All right. Anyways. So then he started the journey back in 1988. If you watch an interview of him, he's extremely humble. That is my dog Gumbo scratching in the back. That's what the noise is. Hi, Gumbo. And he talked about like he knew nothing back then and he knows even less now. And he has kind of become this crazy big rebel of the Burgundy community because he just does things very differently compared to everyone else. Hi, Gumbo, what are you whining about? Am I not paying close enough attention to you? Oh, that's Gumbo right here. Yes? You want to be in my life? I know. I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. We're still live. We're still going live right now. I love you. All right, I love you. Okay. Do not knock over any of my wine. Anyway, so where was I? Yes, he's like super rebel. He's more spiritual. Okay, I'm afraid of your nose now. He's like quite a spiritual guy, and he believed in a lot of a very natural winemaking. Interestingly enough, I know right now natural wine, completely no sulfur, nothing added, indigenous yeast and all that stuff is also really hot, but he doesn't actually believe in that. Like a lot of the really high-end producer, the truth is that he says that the grape doesn't just fall off the wine, ferments itself and run into a bottle. So if you're doing something afterward, it is not a natural wine, but he does believe in making the wine in a style that is oh, am I still here? I had a call right there. I don't know if we cut out. Okay, we're still here. Good. Anyway, so he definitely believed that in that natural style of winemaking. And he also does a lot of really crazy things. Like if you go into a winery, for the most part, you'll see wine barrel lying on its side. He actually tilts it at an angle because he wants like all the settlements to be settled because they only rack it once or something like that. Right at the bottom corner, one little corner, so it's easy for them to rack off. So, and he just does like pretty much all biodynamic, and he does a lot of other crazy stuff. For example, like he does believe in extended aging in old, like somewhat old neutral barrel, and he believed that when he does that, even the thinner wines, like from higher elevation or lesser vineyard, will become sharper and more complex, which again, I think is another code for his wine. And another thing I think nowadays people are going back and forth is that if you are a huge Burgundy dork, everyone have heard of the famous Henri Joyer, and he was one of the ones that pioneered 100% de-stimming. So his wine is super like fruity and really big and lush. Like I know, I've never had a chance to taste one. Very, very expensive, really hard to find. But again, from those who have tasted, that's kind of the notes. But on the other hand, Prieure Roch does the exact opposite. He does 100% stem inclusion, so very rustic and very kind of different in style. But he also does that extensive like aging, like I said, sometime up to 44 months. And as you can tell, this is their current release, 2017, when most Burgundies are releasing their 2018 right now. They are definitely aging a little bit longer. And like I said, he's very spiritual. He really respects the vineyard and the vine and the place. So as you can tell, just looking at the bottle itself, you would never think this is a very expensive and really hard to find Pinot if you know nothing, or Burgundy if you know nothing about it. He doesn't even put a foil capsule on there. It's a very simple, straightforward waxing. And on his label, there's a few Burgundy natural wine producer or natural style wine producer that like to go with this ultra simple and ultra like kind of clean, slick. Okay, James is asking how much is it per bottle. It really depends on the bottle, so we'll get to that because there is a huge range between his wine. So in his label, I had the Chinese subtitle. For those of you who doesn't read Chinese, I just wanted to talk about the nickname for this wine is called the kitchen knife wine because it's hard to say. Prieur Roch is the name. So people look at the label and we see the little thing on the left hand side that looks like a kitchen knife. So the nickname for it is called a kitchen knife. But technically speaking, there is a reason and a symbol for everything on this little label. So the symbol on the first yellow circle here on top, it is the mouth. It is representing of the divine eye. So this is very Egyptian, by the way, because he apparently lived in Niles for a while. So the top is the divine eyes that coordinates to the power which are beyond us. The power of nature, region, God, weather, everything that shapes a vintage or everything essentially under the earth. The second eye here is the human eye, the power which knows itself as being limited, which receive, acknowledge, respect, and protect, which comes from the other eyes. And below that, down here, those three little eggs are representative of grapes. And they are talking about how each grape is unique, so you can tell each one has a different shape and all that stuff. And then on the right-hand side, the part which most of us Taiwanese people endearingly think is a kitchen knife is actually a representation of viniculture, essentially. Exactly what did they say? Let's see. The leaf symbolizes both vegetation and the work of scribe, which records and rules human action. So this is what that is, and that's their simple label. And he is so humble that he doesn't even put his name on there. He doesn't actually want to put the name on there. He just wants to respect the vineyard which it came from, the vintage, and of course the symbol behind it. In the back is where you're actually going to see all the information. See, it doesn't even tell you which village it comes from. So in the back that you'll realize that this is from La Romanie, and his name is finally here in the back. Now, he actually makes 12 different wines. This is gonna be hana geeky. Click away if you don't want to geek out. But all of his sourcings is super crazy. So the two big Grand Cru he has, and when I was able to do this pre-arrival, everyone was asking me for those Grand Cru. So hard to get, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to secure any allocation. And if you're hearing all that noise, that's just my dog running around. So he does have a Chambertin Clos de Besse. It's a Grand Cru from Chambertin. He only has about 1 hectare, so that means, and the vines are literally 95 years old. It's not rare because Gevrey Chambertin and the Grand Cru in Chambertin are some of the oldest vine in all Burgundy. I have actually sold other Grand Cru and Premier Cru wines from Gevrey Chambertin where the vines are literally 100 years old. So in Gevrey is where you see super duper old vine, and his Clos de Besse is exactly the case, 95-year-old vine, and he only has 1 hectare, so he only makes 3,600 bottles. Not cases, 3,600 bottles. That's like what, 120 cases, I think. My math is not that great. It's 300 cases? Yeah, 300 cases. Oh my God, my math is horrible. And he also has Clos Visual Grand Cru, which is even smaller. It's 0.68 hectare. Once again, 85-year-old vine. And well, not all 85-year-old. The oldest is 85 years old. The youngest is about 45 years old vine because it's planted in different stages, actually from like the 30s to 40s and 60s. And there's only 2,400 bottles of that, and I was not able to secure any of that. After that is the Vosne Romani Premier Cru Le Chute. It's 1 hectare, so a little bit bigger. They make about 4,000 bottles a year, so I was able to get that. And these are like about 45-year-old vines, so still really crazy stuff. This is actually one of my favorite, I think one of the most consistent Premier Cru vineyard in Vosne Romani. So I'm very excited to try this wine. This is quite exciting. And after that, we're gonna get geeky because he actually started his career in Vosne Romani, and then he acquired some vine in Nuits-Saint-Georges, which is actually now his biggest holding. In Nuits-Saint-Georges, he has a monopole. It's a Premier Cru here. It's called La Clos de Corvette. I wish I'm French. I wish I can say this better, but that's what it is. And he owns about 5.2 hectares here. And this is a very, very cool project because he actually makes 3 different wines from this one vineyard. So this is the top of the line, Le Clos de Corvette, from that one vineyard. And what makes it special is because the way it is harvested. They are not harvested by plug. They're not barrel selected. They're harvesting only the ripe but undersized berry that gives very concentrated juice and flavor. So it really depends on the vintage. So it's almost like they're picking only the ripest berries. So only when the berries are ripe and very undersized, so full flavor and concentrated, then will they harvest it and put it in this bottle. So then what? Oh, thank you, James. James is like, so much info, learning so much. Anyway, so then even though they have 5.2 hectares, it really depends on the vintage that the production value of this particular wine varies. Now, because there is 5.2 hectares, so in this vineyard of Nuits-Saint-Georges, so he also does just call the Nuits-Saint-Georges Premier Cru, and that one is usually about 5,000 bottles, and those are from the youngest vine and the smaller berries, or the bigger berries, but either way, youngest vine from this plot. So it's almost like a declassified wines that did not go into here, go into what they call their Nuits-Saint-Georges Premier Cru. They didn't even want us to put the name of the Premier Cru on there because he only reserved the name of this Premier Cru for the berry that's specially selected for that. And also from the same vineyard, he also has, I know it doesn't make it easy for you. That's why we have to like geek out so much on this wine. They're so expensive, it is worth knowing what they're all about. So this and the one I just showed you, these two are actually from the same vineyard, but this one is called the Vigne, which means old vine. These guys are again from the same plot that he owns, a 5.2 hectare, but these are his 90-year plus vines. So there's usually about 6,000 bottles of this, so it's the oldest plot. Not necessarily the smallest, most concentrated berry, but the oldest plot. So again, just from one vineyard, 5 hectares, 3 different labels, each one of them a few thousand bottles each. Super duper hard to find. And of course, there are a couple of other ones. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Yeah, I have a lot of them, but most of them are sold, so I don't want to open their boxes and show it to you. He does then started producing some more consumer-friendly, even though his most consumer-friendly wines are still really pricey. He does have a couple of their Bourgogne line. Oh, right here, sorry, it's like a mirror image, it's really hard for it. So these are much bigger production, but everything, like nothing is more than like 7,000 bottles. So we're looking at tiny stuff here. And let's see, I think James was asking for pricing. So let's look. So I have Wine Searcher here. Unfortunately, everything you see here, including everything in the back, are mostly sold. The only thing I have left is some of this one. and these, so the two from Nuits-Saint-Georges essentially. These are the only two I have left, about maybe 24 bottles each. I really wanted to keep some because I know they will age so well, 2017 vintage. They are, I believe, the one which is berry selected. This one's usually going for $500, $600, $550, $600 a bottle. Yeah, that is how expensive they are. On average, $600 a bottle, essentially. I'm looking at Wine Searcher right now. And because I direct imported from the Domaine itself, I was able to offer a really great price. I believe I sold this, don't quote me on it, I have to look, for about $4.99. I can't remember. Something like that. Probably. See, I don't ever remember my pricings, but I do have 24 of them still. Yeah, I sold them for $4.99 when it's $600 like pretty much anywhere else. Just that's the power of direct import. Now the problem with that right now, and I sometimes hesitant doing it for two reasons. Now we're just chit-chatting, that has nothing to do with winery. Number one is since Trump started, he decided to put a 25% tax on all French wine, 14% alcohol under, making French wine that much more expensive. So a lot of the wines are being affected. So I'm actually very glad that I was able to get these wines in with the additional tax and still be able to offer it a discount. So that's what's making it difficult. And there has been illegitimate wine merchant that has a very beautiful storefront, not like me just sitting on my floor. They have very beautiful storefront like Prieur in Berkeley that was on the news because they continue to take money from people for their pre-arrival wine, because it is a very common practice to order pre-arrival from France. But he essentially just empty promise saying he's going to get all this wine and never deliver on the wine. He was, I think, was one of the biggest news last year or a couple years ago. People were cheated out of like thousands and tens of thousands of dollars from that wine shop. And since then, some collectors are becoming very wary and kind of uneasy about ordering pre-arrival. So I am extremely grateful, and I'm very thankful for the clients and friends who know, well, you guys don't know where I live. It's not like I can run away. And trust me, know that if I say, hey, I'm going to get a wine, it's going to get here, even though with a pandemic and everything, things are majorly delayed. Actually, even prior to the pandemic, it's always delayed for some reason. It's like house remodel. Everything costs twice as more and take twice as long to finish. Anyways, but it is here. I'm super excited. If you have any other additional questions, if you are at all interested, I'll be more than happy to share some of my last couple 24 bottles of each of the Nuits-Saint-Georges Old Vine and their berry selective Nuits-Saint-Georges Premier Cru with you. But with that being said, just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background on this really super expensive, hot, hard to get, super hot. Yeah, I know I kind of quoted the price on the two. These are some of their cheapest one. It just, the price goes up from there. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next time, we'll continue to geek out, drink some good wine. Take care. Bye.